Yeah, hey, Coach, not Coach, Assistant GM. We hadn't talked to anybody from the front office since the tampering charges. How did y'all take those in, and will you have to make some adjustments in the next period?
Yeah, I think like anything, obviously open our doors to the deal and the process, and like anything, whether it's involving us or another team, you always look at all those deals and you look at your process from within and things you have to do to adjust and move forward. So we'll move forward.
Zach Harrison is someone who's added a lot of weight, it would seem. Is that something that you all wanted, that Raheem wanted?
Yeah.
What kind of went into that?
Yeah, so with Zach, since coming here, because he's a unique player with his height and his length. Is he an edge guy as he played in college? Is he an inside guy as kind of we've got him working now? He's a guy that can really go from 265 to right now he's at 289, I believe. So that was our decision and his decision. Obviously, he has the frame to be able to do that. We think it'll help him in terms of the fit in our new defense. Would be more going heavier than the other way.
When you all drafted him, he was more of a project player. I'm curious where you feel like he's at now.
Yeah, he's one of those guys. We're really excited about him, obviously, because of the skill set and the things that he can bring. He's one of those players, and when you're dealing with a 43 and a 34 defensively, he's one of those guys that can go either way. So it's all about finding a home for the player. And obviously, Coach Morris and Coach Lake and Coach Rogers, they have a vision for him. Which is a little bit different than probably the vision that we had last year. But nonetheless, the skill set of the player is the same. The wiring of the player is the same. So we're excited about him.
How does the new kickoff rules dictate kind of what y'all are doing as you're looking at, obviously, the final pieces of the bottom part of the roster always turning, but does it dictate a difference in the body types and the style of player that you're looking for in comparison to years past?
That's somewhat to be determined. It's a great question. To be determined a little bit. We have a feel. Talking with obviously Marquise and Kinger, what we think it's going to look like. You watch the other leagues and how it's kind of similar to the kickoffs, but it's still not exactly the same. So that's something for us as a league. We're all going to be evaluating and first time seeing it kind of at practice and seeing what it looks like. So as it moves forward, more reps we get at it, I think there could be a little bit of a change in terms of the body types and the athletes and is it more space? Is it is it high collision? Is it not? Is it so what are the different things that everybody's doing to combat that? So there's a lot of learning that we have to do as we evaluate.
Ryan, do you almost have to prevent yourself from getting too deep in the weeds?
Kyle.
I'm sorry. Do you have to almost present yourself from getting too deep in the weeds?
In terms of
start looking at players in Canada or in the UFL or whatever, you have to say, okay, here's what we're looking at, but we don't want to just obsess with it.
Yeah, well, because the skill set of the player, I think sometimes we do over scout a little bit, and it's like as a special teamer or, you want guys that play their butts off, that are tough, that tackle, those kind of things are still what you're looking for regardless of what the rules are. But there are times where all of a sudden there's certain units where that a guy that's a straight line, physical down your midline player might not bode as well in a coverage unit where you're in a lot of space. So as we start to evaluate these new rules, it could change. All of a sudden the kickoff could look like a punt, a punt return at the end of the day once you get it. So that's a different skill set than a kamikaze kickoff guy. You know what I mean? So we'll feel it out and we'll adjust as we always do.
During OTAs, Coach Morris said team chemistry really isn't built until camp. I know it's still early, but how have you started to see that develop?
Yeah, no, that's the off season. You kind of get a little. I think everybody's feeling each other out, and so now that everybody's here, the players are here. They're staying out back. There's nowhere else to go but here. I think that's where the chemistry is really made. Obviously, I think Coach Morris will kind of allude to it. I think what we're really impressed with for the first couple of days of practice was the amount of, at least from an offensive perspective, and I know Jimmy will talk about it defensively, Coach Robinson said, some of the recall from our players from the off season to first couple of days of practice has been really good, where we haven't had to kind of sometimes you have to reset, come back and teach that first couple days of install again. We were able to kind of hit it and run. And I think that's part of chemistry, guys working together in the offseason, hanging around each other in the offseason, helping each other out with the playbook and those types of things.
We talked to Eddie yesterday, and he said, Terry and Pace, and then you got Rodgers in here this year. We're staying after him to come back. Can you discuss a player like that, that y'all obviously see can, maybe help the team out? And
with Eddie Goldman?
Yeah.
It's just, obviously there's familiarity, for Eddie, and he's, it's been a while for him, since he's played, but he's a really good player, and we like where Eddie's at. He's a good dude. He's good to be around. I think he feels comfortable here, we hope, and he looks good. His body looks good out there. It's just for him, I think it's just about stringing days together and being consistent. And but it's one of the rooms that we're really excited about. It's going to be very difficult decisions come, cut down day in that room for sure.
And just going back to the temper charges, you all felt that, okay, we're okay moving forward, we make some adjustments, or? Well,
it's like everything, I won't go too far into the weeds as to what happened in the investigation, but like I said, whenever that ruling comes for us, it could be for another team. You always look at the processes of those things and you adjust and adapt in terms of what you're going to do moving forward, which we will do.
Mike Hughes played a lot of inside last year. I want to say he said Thursday feels a little bit more home outside. When you all were kind of watching, I want to say perhaps the 2018, 2019 version of Mike when he was more outside, was that part of maybe wanting to play out there more? Because again, a lot of his stuff from last year was not there.
Yeah, well, I think when you're evaluating corners in particular, Mike, guys that are able to play inside out, the versatility part, that's always an attractive. It's what we do whether it's the draft or free agency. If you can do both, it's a bonus. If you're better at one than the other, sometimes playing man coverage doesn't. If you're inside or you're outside, it's man is man. But it's when you start playing zone coverages and there's a lot of things happening behind you. You're not used to a sideline being next to you. Now you're inside. You got bodies all around you. To Mike's point, Mike is good at both, and he can do both, handle both. Wherever he's most comfortable, it's just an added bonus that we can shuffle him back inside or keep him outside. St. Clark Phillips, D. Alford, all those guys have the ability to do both. D. Alford played outside in CFL, predominantly. So we do have a lot of guys like Mike that we feel have Hamilton, who we signed. He started both inside and outside in Arizona. So King, in Green Bay, both outside and inside. So having that versatility is very important to us. It helps us do a lot of different things. It helps with the evaluation process.
Without speaking for him, is there anything trait-wise that you feel would maybe make him feel more at home outside?
No, I think, like I said, the biggest differences between inside and outside from any position could be corner, it could be safeties that come down and play the big nickel, or even inside backers that, 43 outside backers coming stacked inside, behind the defensive line. A lot of things are happening. Your vision and your sight lines are totally different than being on the outside as a corner. Like I said, you got protection from the sideline. You always know that nothing's happening out here. So I think that's the biggest difference. And sometimes it takes guys, it takes a little longer to pick that up, and some guys are really natural doing it.
Kyle, James Williams is a guy that didn't make a lot of headlines when you signed him, but he's getting a lot of run with the ones and twos right now. What did you like about him when you signed him, and what are you seeing from him now? Yeah, so James Smith, I was in Washington when we drafted him in the 7th round, and from NC State, and he's a high motor, tough, rugged, physical dude. That's what James Smith is, and I think that's what we like about him. High character guy. So he'll battle and compete on the edge, and he brings leadership and he brings ethos for us as well.
I don't want to go back in time a little bit. You mentioned your Washington days, and I believe, if my years are right, and you could correct me if I'm wrong on this, but area scout when Kirk Cousins was drafted by that organization. What do you remember about those early conversations that y'all had as a staff when you were looking to bring him in?
Yeah, I was a Southwest area scout that year, first year. Yeah, all the same things that we like about Kirk now. You know what I mean? We had about him then. I know Coach Shanahan, Mike Shanahan was the head coach, and he really liked him. As did our area scouts and coordinator Kyle Shanahan really liked him. And it's all the things that he does well. He's an operator. You know what I mean? And it fires quick. Between the ears. Those things you feel guys. A lot of guys we talk about twitch. Athletically, he's got twitch in his brain, like when it comes to the game, it's pretty natural for him. And you see that out there when you go to practice and his command that he has. But accurate passer, all the things that you like, and that is carried over and translated to the NFL is what the conversations were then. As to sometimes it's funny, the draft is funny, and we talked about it after the draft with quarterbacks. It's a hard position, man. It's a hard position to evaluate. There's no, fairy dust that you sprinkle on and say, oh yeah, if he does this, it'll work. You know what I mean? And so you see a guy like Kirk who's drafted in the 4th round have success, and you see it time and time again. But his wiring and who he is as a guy, I think, is why he's had the success that he's had. And we're excited that he's here, man, and he's with us.
Kyle, was he a culture builder coming out of Michigan State? Because it feels like he built culture for you in Washington. He did it in Minnesota.
I think because of that position and how important that position is, when you have a guy that comes in and does it the way he does it and operates the way he does, and not just on the field, but once you walk in the building and then you see a guy, it was from day one that he's in the meeting rooms and he's in with the coaches and he's doing his own thing, and then all of a sudden you gravitate to that. And if guys gravitate to that, if you're picking the right guys to come into your building, some guy, if they're not wired that way, then they're not going to gravitate to that. They'll gravitate to the lazy, So I think we have a good group of guys, ethos guys that gravitate to that, and that's what Kirk brings. He's a tremendous example. This is his team, and we're excited about him.
We saw a lot of flurries of deals last week around the league. Are you all close to a deal with AJ Terrell, and is he going to play his 5th year?
Yeah, that'll be a conversation you can have with Terry, but normally we don't talk about the contract stuff. We're excited about AJ, expect him to have his best year he's had. Love the guy, but as far as contract and stuff, I'm not going to talk about that.
Caden Ellis has been lining up outside in that 3-4 look a few times. How valuable is his versatility to this defense to be able to play both on the inside linebacker position and kick outside on some of those passes?
Yeah, no, that's exactly right. That's a lot of the things that we liked about Caden. Obviously when we signed him is the ability to do all the different things that he does. He can call it. He can play stack, and he can blitz, really, really good blitzer in terms of not just playing from the edge, but, hitting A-gaps and different types of games and those things. He's an extremely smart player and a good mover. So there's so many different things that he brings for us and that he's able to do. And obviously Coach Morris and Coach Lake have a really good vision for him, and we've got that whole room. We're excited about the room. We think it's a good stable of guys that we feel comfortable with any one of them.
You mentioned CFL scouting earlier. The process of finding Austin Mack, what kind of went into that?
Yeah. So no different than D. Alford. We really enjoy it, and our pro staff does a great job, led by Ryan Pace and those guys. But we're constantly, we signed Prince this year from UFL. You guys know we're really active with the other leagues, but it's no different than, obviously right now CFL is going on right now. They start up early and then end around, I think Thanksgiving is when the Grey Cup is. But so we're grinding through that stuff all through the year, looking at stats, looking at the league leaders around those leagues, and we evaluate the tape. Once that season ends, then obviously there's rules with the other leagues that when you can and can't. But Austin was one of the guys that we tagged and watched and liked and brought him in for a workout and liked what he did. We remembered him from Ohio State when he was playing, so it all kind of lined up for us.
Barry McLeod's a guy that obviously a really good return specialist, but seems to have developed a chemistry with Kirk right away. Yeah. What did you guys like about him when you brought him in?
Yeah, we're excited about, obviously offensively, just some of the weapons that we have like Ray, you know, kind of a guy that, you know, you got different types of flavors. You've got guys that can, you know, that are big, long, contested. You know, you've got guys that can uncover quickly. Ray's one of those guys, and that skill set's been the same, you know, since he's been in the league. And Ike Hillier, Coach Hillier, was with him in Pittsburgh, so was familiar with him, like you talked about. You know, it's the familiarity part. You know, we do like those guys that we have familiarity with to bring in. And but Ray, when you watch his skill set as a returner, and you got to go back to some of the receiver tape that he did in Pittsburgh when he played a lot, and had opportunities in San Fran too. But that skill set we liked: uncover, quickness, twitch. He's tough. He's got good hands. So all those things translate to being a good slot, and he can play outside as well. But same thing with Moore, and you know, we got guys that can uncover quickly and are excited about that group. Mooney, obviously, he can do it all too.
How do you, given where the roster at the state of, you know, the beginning here and what it looks like now, from your vantage point, how do you feel going into this season?
Yeah, I feel great. I feel really good. I think we've talked about it before. You know, it's been a long process, obviously, from you know, kind of not being able to really sign in free agents, and you're trying to build. And we talked about the quarterback position, and you know, trying to find that heir apparent, trying to find the next, you know, quarterback. So if you don't have it originally, your thought process is to build for when that time comes, and I feel like that's what we've tried to do: solidify the O-line. We've got 5 returning starters, provide weapons, you know, on the outside, the guys we just talked about, and then have a run game, and you guys know about our backs. So all those things were for preparing for a quarterback, and we were able to go out and sign Kirk, and obviously draft Michael, and we've got Taylor, and so feel really good offensively about that on paper, how we talk about. Now, obviously, we have a new coach, and we have a new system with Coach Robinson, and that has to all gel and come together. But when you have a veteran quarterback like Kirk, who's able to, you know, show the way, we feel really good about that. And then defensively, feel really good about the D-line and the competition that we have there. And, you know, there's going to be competition around the board in terms of who's going to be our starters and who's going to be the guys. So really excited, man. Really excited about this season. Got a long way to go. Just started. So we'll see how it goes.
How important will the joint practices be? Terry Bisky used to tell me, don't get too excited until they put on the pads.
Yeah.
So they look great right now.
Yeah.
But,
we're the same way. You know, it's good. You're almost, you know, some of the guys, you're evaluating movers right now. It's kind of how we're doing it. You know, we're evaluating, are they moving the way we want them to move, the way we thought they'd move if they're rookies, or if they're free agent signings, how we thought they move. And then obviously the pads come on. Now we can start the evals and start figuring some stuff out. But the joint practices are so important. They're tremendous, you know, for those evaluations. And you know, year ones get the looks, and we'll see how much, obviously, as we get to preseason, how much those guys play. You know, but it's you'd love to have as many of those opportunities as you can. You know.
Quick follow-up to what Mark was talking about with the receivers. I'm kind of curious, as you look back at all the work that y'all put in to build this group around Drake. I think it's interesting. Y'all obviously work so far in advance, and you have a new coaching staff coming in. They have specific things that they're looking for. How much did the group that y'all have now match up with kind of that process of marrying these two ideals together?
Yeah, I think it's, you know, every coach or every system has different skill sets that they're in favor of or they value more. I don't know if there's a system. I think all systems fit Drake. All systems fit a Pitts. All systems fit, you know what I mean, all these guys. But I think now we're a little bit more is going to be 3 wide receiver sets, so that changes a little bit. You know what I mean? Like we're saying, the uncover quick, the slot receiver, the different skill sets that way. But that being said, Drake can play slot. You know, he could be a big slot. So it changed just a bit in terms of philosophy. We've got some more. I think that whole unit has a little more juice to it, you know. which is extremely important. And, you know, you can feel that out there. The defense feels kind of the speed, I think, that we have in that group. So, you know, every system is different, but I think we had a lot of guys, but we flipped that. I mean, we added a ton of new guys, you know, this offseason. So excited to see that group, you know, as we get to the live stuff.
Time for one more.
You mentioned Zach Robinson's offense earlier. When you all were signing Charlie Warner, how do you kind of weigh the numbers for him versus the way that he can maybe help you all manipulate a few of the, you know, 12 versus 11 and how that all looks?
Yeah, I think with Charlie, it's, you know, you look at numbers, it's no different than like Ray when you ask about that. Sometimes it's like, well, you know, what's the production look like? And, well, we evaluate the skill set, you know, and with Charlie, how he was as a blocker and in a similar scheme in terms of on-the-move blocking, zone scheme, climbing, scraping, which is what he's really good at, and that's what he's going to be asked to do. But we know that Charlie's got good hands and he can catch, and there's some different things that he can do, you know, in the pass game that not necessarily untapped, but from a production perspective might have more production, or can have production if those opportunities come. So, you know, we had the exact same, you know, we were extremely aligned on Charlie because obviously free agency, we start that during the season and we do the evals, and Sal Conti, our scout, you know, evaluated him first, and then Ryan, and obviously so on and so forth. And then we had new staff come in, and then as soon as they evaluated Charlie, it was like, yeah, we're on the same page, so we wanted to move forward with that.
All right. Thank you.
Good? All right.